Instant Mood Improver is recorded on Bunurong country. I pay my respects to local elders past, present and emerging and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to any mob who may be listening today.
Put a pep in your step, turn your frown upside down, make it more fun to be around. Instant mood improver. Instant mood improver. Instant mood improver. The songs that make you feel happy again.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Instant Mood Improver, a happy music podcast, the podcast where we talk to people about the song that puts a pep in their step, turns their frown upside down, and otherwise makes them a little more fun to be around. Today's guest is Dallon from I Don't Know How. How you going?
I'm good, and I can't wait to do all of those things.
The best way to get ourselves into this conversation is to ask you, what is one song that instantly improves your mood the moment you hear it?
The first one that came to mind when you said that was Do You Realize by the Flaming Lips off of Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots.
Hell yeah, we have a debut band on the podcast here. No one has talked about the Flaming Lips yet, and I'm very happy that you are.
What a crime.
I agree, what a crime. What is it about this particular song that makes you happy?
Oh man, well, right place, right time, I guess. When that record came out, it was the early 2000s. I was in my early 20s, and man, what just a beautiful record all around. And weirdly enough, I think maybe like 2 years ago, they did a 20th anniversary concert at Riot Fest in Chicago that we were also playing, where they played that record from top to bottom. And it was just one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had going to a show, because that record meant a lot. Well, it still does, but just to be in a field watching them play that from top to bottom, I was just like, just crying. This is so beautiful, but I loved it a lot. But yeah, there's just something about that particular time and place and that song. It just sparks something that takes me back there and just instantly gives you that little dopamine hit that you need, you know.
Well, their live shows are pretty wild experiences,
Yeah.
and that probably does help, because I feel like music has this capacity to take us back to a time and place way more effectively than anything else. And I think it's because of the sensory overload that's going on when you're watching a
Very
live
true.
performance.
And very true with their show too. Like, I've never taken any kind of hallucinogenics, but I imagine that it's not dissimilar.
What do you think a hallmark of a instant mood improving song is? Do you think it has to do with the composition? Does it have to be in a major key, or do you think it is to do with the lyrical content or the rhythm, or what is it that makes you?
I think it's a combination of all of those things, and it's any combination or lack of combination of that stuff, because all of this art and this music, it's also subjective. So what touches you or speaks to you may not speak to your neighbor. You know, that's why we get so many people of differing opinions saying something that you really love and that means a lot to you. Someone will say, "Oh, they suck," or "That sucks," which is such a abhorrent way to look at something that's so subjective. I think, 'cause to put that much emphasis on your own musical opinions, to declare that this thing that is not for you, well, it sucks because I only like things that are, of course, good and cool, because that's who I am. You know, what an egotistical thing to say. It's perfectly fine to admit that something is good and simultaneously admit that it's not for you. I think that's how we should approach that stuff. So because it is so subjective, you know, you find the things that do speak to you and embrace them, and you know, let yourself enjoy that, and enjoy those moments. And if it doesn't touch you in that way, if it doesn't speak to you, don't stamp your fist down and declare, "Oh, this sucks." You just go, It's not for me. I think that's probably the kindest way that you could express that.
I think it is, and also it's entirely too rational for the internet. Don't go on the internet.
That's just a good rule in general. There's nothing good on the internet.
I mean, there are a couple of good things on the internet. I'm assuming
There's
people
like
found your
there's like
music.
three things. There's like three things on the internet that are good, and the rest is just a trash fire.
Presumably, one of those good things on the internet is the music. I don't know how they found me. Now, I'm curious, has anyone told you that the music you write improves their mood or benefits them in a positive way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the more people that you expose your art to, you'll have that happen. But you're going to have the opposite as well. I think the further your reach goes, you're going to get both people that connect and resonate with the art that you're making, and you'll also get people that don't like it. So you have to be okay with both, and you have to, I think, not invest too much of yourself into either of those camps, because it's quite easy to invest yourself in your own ego and your identity into the opinions of the people who already agree with you and who like what you're doing. And you can wander into that camp and set up shop and go, I live here now. Yes, I am really great, and my art is really wonderful. Yeah, but you got to remember that there's a whole other camp that thinks what you're doing is terrible. So check yourself, check your ego, make the art that you want to make that makes you happy. And if it makes you happy, chances are that someone else is going to find that as well and connect to it too. So please yourself first, and if you do that, and if you're honest about it, and if you're not trying to like chase a hit or play to the gallery or find that lowest common denominator, don't make art for those reasons. Make art for yourself, and if you do it genuinely, then you'll have those genuine connections. Those will follow.
Spoken like a man who's had a lot of experience. You have been in the limelight for the vast majority of your existence, so it's probably quite telling advice.
Well, I've been on the periphery of the limelight, you could say. I've been sort of orbiting that world while never really touching down, so to speak. So I've seen a few things, you could say.
Seen a few things, and of course, I'm talking to you now because you have a new record coming out. It is
Yeah.
called Gloom Division,
Yeah, and
and
how apropos to talk about gloom on such a happy, mood-improving show.
I agree. I mean, there can be joy in gloom. There's
Oh, if nothing else, singing about it and making art about it helps to disarm it, a bit. At least that's how I look at it. It's a little bit of therapy and exercising your demons and making art about things that are horrible, or talking about them or laughing about them, joking about them, whatever it is. Addressing those things, I think, sort of takes their power and their gravity away a little bit, and it helps lighten the load and helps you deal with things that might be a little bit dark, but in a way that's healthy.
that's definitely a recurring theme on the show. Is the concept that the joy that can be found in some music and in some songs and some compositions, even though they're not joyful songs, is in its capacity to connect with a variety of people and then
Yeah,
connect those people together so that when
yeah,
they come together at a show, for example, or even online in a forum or something, they're able to experience the thrill of being understood by
yeah,
another human
exactly.
being.
That feeling of community. Let's all be gloomy together, because at least we have that. That's the most beautiful part about playing and performing and making music for me. Being on stage and being in a room full of a bunch of strangers that outside of the venue doors might not have a single thing in common, but for that hour or 2 hours, however long they're there in that room, they're sharing one thing that they all really like, and that to me is a great source of joy, inspiration, and mood improvement.
I agree. Now we've been hit with the final taste of this record before it drops in the form of the single "Infatuation." Now, the way this song was described before I heard it really made me happy. Was 70s groove tackling ego obsession and the consequences that can follow if you indulge in your own fantasies too often. And then I pressed play and it did that. So your publicist did a good job on the presser. But my question for you here is how much of this is kind of driven by your own experiences and how much of it is kind of an escapist exploration?
Well, it's all always a little bit 50-50 when you're making art. Like even if you're making something that's autobiographical, sometimes you inject a line of fiction just to be able to tie themes together or to tie a verse to a chorus. So there's some reality in there and some lived experience when it comes to indulging in my own ego. That's for sure, especially as a younger man. But I said it before that if you're interested in pursuing art as a career, you have to have at least enough of an ego to believe that what you're doing is good enough to share with other people. Like, hey, this is pretty good. Someone else should hear what I'm doing here too. You have to have at least that much of an ego. But anything more than that, it starts to become unhealthy. So it's you gotta keep checking yourself, and you don't ever really stop if you want to have a healthy relationship with it.
Brilliant. And before I let you go, this record was produced by Dave Friedman, who has worked with Tame Impala, MGMT, Weezer, you.
Yeah.
How,
What a list, man! Like I don't know. It still doesn't feel quite right, to be at the end of that list that you just read off. Hopefully, I can get to a point where I feel like I've earned having my name there. But to be able to have made a record with Dave in that place where so many of my favorite artists have made so many of my favorite records was pretty magical, pretty special. In the Flaming Lips, who I mentioned before, who made Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots there. So it was an awesome experience to finish recording at the end of the day and then stay up all night wandering the studio playing these instruments that have been on some of my favorite records. Really inspiring.
Brilliant. Well, as we wind down the show, I will ask you to give a 30-second pitch on why people should listen to your choice of Instant Mood Improver by the Flaming Lips here. What makes this song an absolute must listen?
All right, how much prep time do I have here for this?
However long you want before I get kicked off.
Okay. All right, here we go. People, good people of Australia and the rest of the world, whoever might be listening to Instant Mood Improver, please, I implore you to drop your biases for just a moment, whatever genre you happen to like or prefer the most. Open your mind, if you will, the windows of your mind. Just crack them open a little bit. I want you to get down by that crack and I want you to peek through it. Look at what's out there. All right? Might be scary. You might not be familiar with this song. You might not be familiar with this band. But I promise you, if you have just enough faith to give them 30 seconds of your time, 30 seconds, that's all that I'm asking you. If this song has not improved your mood and hasn't caught you by the time that 30 seconds has passed by, then you never have to listen to another thing I say ever again. Not that you do. I mean, we live in a free society. At least I hope that's where we all live. But take it from me, Dallon Weekes, whom you've definitely heard of before. That list that got read earlier, I'm on there on that last one. But I really like it. You might find some joy in it too. That's all I can really offer. Best of luck to you.
That's brilliant. I personally think that did the job just fine. Now, you sat around and you wrote this record, and you did it in Salt Lake City, I presume, where you're residing, surrounded by very interesting culture and beautiful nature. And you unearthed a brilliant record. And from that record, what song would you like people to listen to as we exit this podcast?
Well, Infatuation is my favorite. It's my yacht rock song. It's Hall and Oates joins a cult and joins Michael McDonald on a seafaring mission to ecstasy.
You've got a job in marketing, man. You've got a job in marketing.
Yeah, if this music thing doesn't pan out, I'm going to go into advertising.
Yeah, doesn't pan out with your few billion streams and your gold certified record.
It's still up in the air. It could go either way.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining me here on Instant Mood Improver. Everyone, go check out Dallon, his music. I don't know how, but they found me. And make sure you check out Infatuation. It is a wicked song. And Gloom Division will be out on February the 23rd. We'll leave you now with Dallon's choice of Instant Mood Improver and, of course, Infatuation by I Don't Know How. Go have yourself a rad day. And remember, there is no such thing as bad music.
I like that.